Darlings, welcome to another episode of Living Out Loud with Loretta. I'm feeling a little bit ashamed and a little bit embarrassed. I just spoke to a woman who is definitely making money moves in her life. Her mission is to teach all of us, especially women of color, how to address financial matters in our lives, how to get rid of the taboo when it comes to money in our lives, how we deal with money in our lives, how to invest the money in our lives. The school is in session. I am on a mission to educate not just myself, but any one of you that might be even a little bit like me, which is stupid and ignorant when it comes to money. Spending what I have, not thinking about tomorrow. It's not a good way to be. So I hope that you are open to learning from my guest tonight. She says that she doesn't have all the answers, she doesn't know everything, but she knows a lot. Trust me. Meet Anne-Lyse.
Welcome to another episode of Living Out Loud with Loretta. Today I have with me a woman who not only is wearing like one of my favorite colors, actually my favorite color in the whole world, which I would wear every day if I could, but she is also a complete brainiac. She is a money woman. She is a CPA. She is a financial consultant. She is an author. She's a podcaster. She's also a mother of 3. And she is from the Cameroon, which I love, but I think she's living out in Atlanta, Georgia. So, but I'm still going to harp on about Cameroon being beautiful. So I'm grateful to be able to actually get her to sit and chat with me. Miss Anne-Lyse, the woman who knows all about wealth and health and fabulousness. Thank you for joining me.
Well, Loretta, thank you so much for having me. This is actually my first video podcast, so I'm excited.
Ooh, and you came with the tiara and the fuchsia pink. Did you know that was my favorite color?
Somebody told me. But yeah, just a correction. I don't know everything about wealth. I'm still learning, and I don't think I'll ever know everything.
Ooh,
I'm definitely sharing what I know.
That's very smart that you say that, because you know what? We're supposed to always keep learning, right? No matter where we are in our careers or whatever, you're supposed to continue learning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what piqued my interest with you, not only about the fact that you are a money lady, which I will get to soon because I want to pick your brain, but I love the fact that you're kind of new-ish to Instagram, and you are promoting sort of money, like money smarts, especially for women, and in particular women of color. So tell me how it is that you got to be so aware of your financial life and be confident enough to speak about it and to try and educate other women about it.
Okay, sure. So I've been really into budgeting and money for as long as I can remember. I know that my first budget I created when I was 13 years old, and it's just because my mom had told me that whatever you do, you just need to make sure that you save 20%. So I was like, okay, so let me just figure out how to get to that 20% saving. I didn't really have a bunch of lines, but I knew how much was coming in and then how much was going out, and then just making sure that I would have enough saved. So kind of like my interest with personal finance has been since forever, before I even knew what it was called. And so my career, for the past decade, I've been working in finance and accounting. I'm a CPA, and I've been very interested in personal finance. I opened my first investment account, And over time, that was actually an advice that I got from a professor in college. And it's been,
I'm sorry for my audience that are listening. You cannot see my face. Uh, I am in your early 20s. You opened your first investment account.
Yes, that's because one of my college professor advised the entire class to do that. And so I looked into it and I did it. And so that's how I kind of like began investing. And I've been really interested in, everything money. And so over time, I became kind of like a go-to person for my family and my friends, and then the people in my network when they had questions about money. And also, a lot of times they needed guidance to get out of a difficult situation. And they all said the same thing. I wish I had known more about money earlier in life so I wouldn't have made those mistakes. And a lot of them were minorities. Actually, a lot of them were Black. And in talking to, friends and people that I know from other communities, it seems that in our community, it's an even bigger taboo. So as I started talking to more people and researching, I couldn't find a personal finance book out there that addressed the specific challenges of the Black community and also the specific opportunities. So that's how I decided to kind of like write my first book, which is called Dream of Legacy: Raising Strong and Financially Secure Black Kids. And then from there, prior to releasing my book, I made my blog, because I had been writing, public. And so I started helping more people, and that's kind of how I became a coach. To make the story short.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm delving in. Okay, never mind at 13. So first and foremost, your mother. Oh no, okay, hold on. The most important, excuse me, you're in Atlanta, so we're on a similar time zone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Same time
Okay,
zone.
so do you have an adult beverage with you?
Oh, I do. I have a little bit of wine over here.
Oh, and we're in a similar glass.
Oh, nice. What are you drinking?
Well, this is my new thing. I'm trying to do more for my health this year. So I tried to put down the champagne glass and swap it for tequila with freshly squeezed lemon and Pellegrino sparkling water.
Okay, nice.
So cheers to you, money, honey.
Cheers.
Okay. Let's get to it. So at 13, I guess your mother was the big influence to tell you to, here's your money, save your money, save 20%. You said you didn't have like lines or whatever, I guess like a, some sort of chart or whatever that you were. Right. But I love that she kind of gave you that, I guess, from your pocket money or whatever, right? Fast forward now in your early 20s. Can I ask you what investment company what company you invested your money in the early 20s?
Oh, in the early 20s, I was actually doing something that I don't do much anymore. I was, instead of starting off how I would advise most people right now, I'm not giving financial advice, but like people who come to me, I would say, if you don't know enough, just start with like index funds. I actually started with individual stocks, and I would be kind of like obsessed with it. I would spend hours every day just looking at the market, buying and selling. And so that's kind of like how I started. But I would say, looking back, I wish I just didn't know about index funds back then. Otherwise, I would have just gone that route. It's a lot safer and it's a lot easier, and you really don't have to spend as much time as I did.
Okay, I don't know what either of those things are, but it is my intention this year to learn. And I don't, you obviously speak a lot about, investments and money management and everything on your podcast. And I want to make sure people come and speak to you and see what it is that you do. But I want to know the rounded human being who has the dollar signs, like you have the money brain and you have the huge interest in it. So you're growing up, first and foremost, your book, your first book, entitled Dream of Legacy, right? Which you self-published, which is a big deal. But going back even further, you decided to leave what was a safe corporate career to then follow your dreams, even though you had your husband, both you and your husband obviously had an income for however long. You have 3 children. You made the decision, following faith instead of fear, to go ahead and follow your dream. Explain to me what voices in your head spoke to you and made it seem like it made sense for you to actually be brave enough to follow your dreams.
So, to be honest, over the past 3-4 years, I've had a lot of realization about life and how short it is. And it's mainly because I've had 3 close family members who have, like my mother that I'm talking about has been kind of like overnight, she started becoming very ill. And, so that was like kind of like the first exposure to, okay, so, she just went from being totally healthy to just now needing 24-hour care almost overnight. And then, I have a brother who also was healthy, and then all of a sudden he was sick. And then the last straw, which is the year that I made the decision to kind of like walk away from my secure job to pursue my dreams, is that was 2019, and my oldest sister was perfectly healthy. And then one day she found out she had cancer, and I actually, my plan was to take a break and just because she was getting treatment in France. So I was traveling back and forth a lot, and with my 3 little ones, my husband, it was just getting really exhausting with work. And so the plan was to just kind of take a little break and just be more present. But when I quit my job, when I left my corporate job, I was planning to visit the following month. And the day before I went to visit my sister, she passed away. So that was kind of like, after that, I was, so initially I took a leave of absence from work, but then that moment I decided that I didn't really have any more time to waste. And, we were kind of like we were lucky enough to be in a situation where I could afford to take that chance, or we could afford to take that chance. So I did. And it's been, I guess, going on 2 years. It's going to be 2 years at the end of this year. And I won't say it's been, a smooth ride, but it's been very rewarding, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Because you know what, I'm first and foremost, I'm sorry about that loss.
Thank you.
I mean, any illness, it doesn't matter whether a person suffers for a long time and recovers, or suffers for a short time and it recovers or doesn't recover. It doesn't matter. The loss of any loved one is heartbreaking. I don't even, there aren't even any words. I lost my mother to cancer as well, and cancer has taken too many people.
Too many lives.
And this year, obviously in this past year alone, we've seen, COVID take, so many people as well. And I love, out of all of that, what I love is that it gave you it lit a fire, I guess, maybe for you to kind of just say, I need to do something different. And I'm guessing were you hating your job? Were you miserable? Or did you just have this calling, this voice in your head that said, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing, and I now is the time to do it. What am I waiting for? What was the impetus? I mean, I know you're obviously, when you have your loved one go like that, are you sitting looking at your life, and what were the thoughts that you were having?
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear about your mother as well.
Thank you.
And so I wouldn't say that I hated my job. I just was at a point where I was looking for something new. And it had been probably about a year since, I started thinking about something else, and then, because I had small children, I decided to go with like a safer approach, and I asked for a promotion. And so I was promised a promotion at my job, And then shortly after, my director, which was my boss, left the company, and his boss, the CFO, left the company. And when I went to HR to ask them what happened to my promotion, they told me they knew nothing about it. So that was kind of like the last, the last straw, you know. So that just kind of like confirmed that okay, it was time to move on. And at that time, I just didn't want to look for another job. I really just wanted to take a chance and actually do those things that I've been wanting to do. And like I said, I didn't just do it overnight. So I wouldn't necessarily advise people to do that. I actually would advise people to kind of try to build their dreams on the side. But it's just like for me, with everything that I had going on in life personally, and with the fact that we were kind of like in a situation where financially we could afford to do that, then I just did it.
It's a braver choice to make a change, irrespective whether you are financially comfortable enough to do it or not. It's still a braver choice to make a change in your life, which is a drastic change, really, you know. So I'm proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
And I hope that you feel that your sister, your family are proud of you for doing that. I know certainly for your when you published your book, you had like family all over the world, right? Just kind of, you
Absolutely,
know, I
yeah.
guess what, on a Zoom call celebrating.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did. And that was amazing. Yeah.
I love that. So tell me how and why why is it that there is, and I know you have something on your website that talks about the inequality in the wealth gap when it comes to, you know, the racial wealth
Mm-hmm.
gap. What is that about? How do we change that? How do we raise more young girls the way you were raised, to be aware of money and to be aware of its worth and to be aware of how powerful it is and the strength in actually knowing what money is coming in and knowing that you are saving for your future, for whatever, not just going from paycheck to paycheck, which is how I have lived most of my life.
And so I won't sit here and tell you that I have all of the answers, but I will definitely share a few things that I think are important. And so to do that, I kind of have to look at my background and take a step back. So, you know, I was raised by parents, and I think I was lucky to be raised by parents who were financially savvy. And though we didn't have a lot of money conversations, I was able to observe the things that they were doing. And another thing that my mom told me when I was younger is because I grew up in Cameroon and France, and in both places, credit for everyday thing is not, at least at the time, wasn't really a thing, right? So when I came here, that's probably one of the reasons why like the credit cards and just all of that stuff didn't make sense to me, because where I'm from, a lot of times people pay cash for things and they'll maybe use credit to buy a home or things like that. And one of the things that my mom used to tell me is that, you know, nobody can come and tell you, if I'm not here, nobody can come and tell you that I owe them any money because I don't borrow money. You should not borrow money. And, you know, just those little conversations helped me tremendously as an adult. And so I think that well, first of all, for parents to take the time to educate themselves about money. And there's so many podcasts, website, books out there that can do that. But then also, once you know more, once you're able to build wealth on your own, don't think that your kids are just going to pick it up. You need to, I mean, if you're lucky, they will, but that usually doesn't happen that way. So
listen, I am an example of how it did not trickle down. My mother, you know, after finally divorcing my father, which she needed to have done, I don't know, 20 years prior, but she did finally. She was you know, living in England, and she didn't have, you know, the qualifications in England. Back in Nigeria, she was a teacher, and she came from a very prominent family. In England, she was just one of many. So she had 5 children to raise. You know, so she had to work. She was on her grind. She did at one point, and I don't know for how many months it lasted, but she had 3 jobs. She would leave early in the morning, go and do, I think, cleaning, come back mid-morning, have a cup of tea, go to the next job, come back late afternoon, have a cup of coffee and some toast, go to the next job, and that'd be her evening job. Luckily, I had older siblings, so they were able to kind of feed me and my younger sister and make sure we went to bed and everything. But she was able to save money, buy our first home, 4-bedroom, new build, you know, and at the time I didn't know. I was just like, oh, we're going from an apartment to a house. Yay, this is great. Oh, now we're all going to have our own rooms. She was so frugal with her money, and yet we didn't want for anything. You know, we had family vacations, which I'm still like, how did she do it? My younger sister has the same gene. Me, it totally passed over. I swear, Anne-Lyse, I have, I mean, you know, I come from the acting world. I was very fortunate to go to a great acting school, came out, was working right away. I have earned some silly money, and I spent it probably before I even made it. Do you know what I mean? I made sure
and you're
me and
not
my
the
friends.
only one.
Exactly, right? But it's like, I'm kind of like, well, at least, you know, I made sure me and my friends had great times, you know, we had vacations, lots of wonderful nights out. But how do we stop that? How do we re-educate ourselves, you know?
So
How?
I think one thing that I talk about in my book is the mindset, the money mindset, because I feel like, you know, if we're talking about the Black community, for instance, one thing that we, not everybody, but a lot of times we don't come from money, right? And so when you come from not having anything, and then all of a sudden you have a lot, then it's kind of like normal that you would just
You're doing this,
exactly.
you're doing that, whether you're in the strip club or not, you're doing that.
And then also the fact that we don't necessarily know about investing. We might be afraid about the stock market, and we think that we have to go and pick, you know, the winning stock, when there's like so many simple ways to invest in the stock market, invest in real estate, but we just don't know. So again, the first step is to read books, listen to podcasts, personal finance podcasts and books, and educate yourself. But I think with our
can I interrupt?
Sure.
Again, I don't know if my mother studied any of this, but I saw evidence of the fact that she had investments. So she invested in like the main British telecommunications company. She had investments in that. The main British gas company, that actually was a company that we used as well. She had shares in that. Once she passed away, I mean, while she was alive, she did tell us, okay, I have shares in this, shares in that, shares in that. And, you know, I was still like, oh, I didn't pay attention. But afterwards, I was like, where did she learn all of this from? So how do we change someone who is like a numbnut like me? How do you wake someone like me up? I mean, I'm awake now, but how? But this is now in my late 40s. It's like,
so
no.
I think the first thing is really realizing that it's never too late to pick it up. Because a lot of times people think, oh, you know, I'm already 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, so never mind. But no, I think it's just actually realizing that, okay, you need to do something different is the first step. And like I said, just start learning. And the most basic things, the most basic way is, you know, if you work for a company that has a 401k match, make sure that you at least take advantage of the match. Take advantage of, you know, accounts like Roth IRA accounts, which and all of the, I mean, as much as you can, the tax advantage retirement accounts. And, you know, start there. And, you know, in the beginning, you don't have to start with individual stocks. You can start with index funds, which essentially either invest in like a specific sector, like a technology sector. So instead of buying like one company, it will just buy a bunch of companies in that sector. So you could do that. Or you can actually do like a total stock market fund. So basically, it will be like, okay, you are owning the entire market. So that means if the market goes up or if it goes down, I mean, if the market goes down, you know that it will go back up. So, and there's several companies have options when it comes to total stock market funds. So that's definitely a great place to start. But like when it comes to our children, I think that I was talking about mindset a lot because, we live in a society where our children are raised, or society tells our children that they're not good enough. And just starting from the beginning and teaching them all of the pride that they should have of being Black. And that means Black from African descent. Just teach them about the history. And that's something that I do in my book. Like I spent the first 4 chapters just talking about Black pride and how to transmit that to your children. And then just learning like habits like practicing gratitude and teaching them how to the fundamentals of money, saving, giving, um, investing, uh, saving, giving, investing, and spending.
Also earning, because I mean,
Yep.
for instance, my 11-year-old. So with me doing the podcast, and I'm sort of learning from other people, just kind of how to sort of try and be more present on social media, which I know you're doing as well. So, but the technical stuff I'm not so great at. I'm learning bit by bit. But my daughter, 11 years old, is crazy about all of the technical stuff, coding and all that kind of stuff. So she does my social media editing. So I pay her. So every Saturday, I'm like, here's your $20 for the week, of all the hard work you're doing, but you put it in your piggy bank, and then once a month we go to the bank where you have an account. She's had an account since she was like 1 or 2. She did like a Babies R Us, commercials. I was like, okay, I'll open an account for you. I was like, okay, we go to the bank, you put your money, you write out all the information on the slip, whatever, you see how much money you have in there. So you're aware of what it is that you're putting in. This is your money. This is your cash.
And
what are you going to do with that?
That's a good place to start. And I hope that you're taking advantage of, you're paying her through your business. And
oh, wait a minute. I didn't know about that.
And actually, you can, one thing that you can do for your daughter, since she's earning income, is every year you can open an IRA for her, a Roth IRA for her. And the income that she earns up to $6,000 a year, you can put that in an account and then just get her retirement started like that. And the thing with a Roth IRA is that it grows tax free.
Wow. How early can you open a Roth IRA for a child?
Well, you can do it. Well, she's 11, so you definitely can do it now. Usually, technically, there's no age, but the child has to be able to perform the job that you're saying that they're performing in the business.
Okay. So my 6-year-old, it's a little bit early for my 6-year-old. I can't say that he's.
Sometimes like they'll do maybe like pictures, so they'll be like models for younger kids. And I would definitely advise to work with your CPA on this. But that's definitely something to look into, because I recently actually put a table on my Instagram about that, because just making the sacrifice for 6 years, if you have a child that has earned income and they're able to invest $6,000 every year, then they do it for five years, and you just let it grow into retirement. That could be $1 million.
Oh my goodness!
So.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the name of the account that the 2 children have. It's letters, like I keep thinking YMCA. It's not YMCA. It's something account for
UGMA, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. And I don't really know what it's about. I just know it was at the same bank that we have our accounts with. So it's like, okay, we'll open this so that any money you earn from any, anything, whether it be, like you say, if you're doing photographs, modeling, or whatever, the check goes straight into that. But okay, I'm going to look into this. Okay, so your own children, how early did you start teaching them, and what are their ages, by the way?
So my kids are 6 and 4.
Okay.
And so I would say it really depends on the child, because my first child was very interested in money starting at 4 years old. my my 4 years old, my 4 year old. So at four, that's when she started having kind of like responsibilities and started getting an allowance, and that's when we introduced. So she had a bank account. We would go there every quarter, and that's when we started all of that. So we were planning on doing the same thing with our 4 year olds, but they're not ready yet. They're not ready. Like they still say one money, two money. So
That's like me. One money, two money, spend it, it's all money.
so maybe next year. So we're just keeping an eye on that. But yeah, I think it really depends on the child. And once you start seeing interest, uh, just take advantage. And one of the things that we do a lot at our house is we just talk about business around our kids. And so the 4 year olds, they don't really care, but my 6 year old, she cares a lot. Like the other
Okay,
day.
so yeah, tell me. Okay, I said, give me an example. Like what? Like what are
So,
you talking about?
so the other day, she, we were talking, my husband and I were talking about the fact that, it's kind of hard to draw a line, and it's between, life and business and like the conversations. And so we were like, okay, we really need to do a better job at stopping the business conversations, especially at the dinner table. And then my 6 year old was like, no, why? I mean, because we should talk about family stuff. And she's like, no, this is interesting. I want to learn. So she's paying attention, and she's really paying attention, because the other day, actually, I was, I've been doing the program that you did last year, the podcast program, Pace to Pod.
Yes,
Yeah,
Pace the Podcast with Farnoosh Tarabi and Jacqueline Malone.
exactly. And so I was on one of those Zoom calls, and my 6 year old kind of walked into the room, and she read like Farnoosh Tarabi on the screen, and she knows that I listen to so many. So she's like, are you talking to Miss Farnoosh Tarabi? Like, how do you even know all this stuff? And I was thinking about, like guests for my podcast. And I was actually talking to my husband, and she's like, why don't you get Miss Susie Orman and Miss Farnoosh Tarabi? I was like, yeah, sure, sure.
Darling, if you don't ask, you don't get. No, hold on. You have, who is it? One of your guests quoted a quote from Oprah Winfrey. Something about asking, like not getting.
Oh,
Darn it, I
yeah,
should have written.
Sophie Aida. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
She's an actor like you.
I know. I mean, I don't know her name, but I know her face, and I know I've
Mm.
seen her on several things. So I loved her story of the fact that she started off. She's obviously lived in France and whatever else, and just kind of started off going to this audition wherever it was
Mm.
in California or whatever, and not really speaking without the accent and everything, but just having that belief, like going, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna, being the self. I think people are born self-motivated, right? Or you have your parents that just kind of push you and support you. But that's a whole, that was a whole different type of subject, because your podcast isn't specifically about finances. It's really, kind of like my one. It's a great opportunity to get to speak to people and hear their stories, and I guess maybe get inspired by it. So what led you to even go down the route of investigating podcasting?
So, I love podcasts, and I listen to podcasts almost every day. And over the years, the thought kind of crossed my mind, but I would just brush it off. Like, what am I going to talk about? I'm not sure that's for me. But as I was getting ready to release my book, I was looking for more ways to get my message out, and the thought kept popping in my head. And so I believe in God, and I believe in signs. And so sometime last year, I was listening. I can't even remember which podcast I was listening to, but I was listening to a podcast, and I heard Farnoosh Torabi on the podcast saying that she was talking about the racial wealth gap, and how it was like the responsibility, not just for Black people and other minorities to fix it, but for everyone to be proactive about it. And so it just prompted me to reach out to her on Instagram. I had never spoken to her in my life. And, I told her, hey, I'm working on this book, and I'm offering solutions to help close the racial wealth gap. And so that led to me sending her a copy of my book. And next thing I know, I was a guest on her podcast. And I just really enjoyed the experience. The moment I decided, or I was actually even open to the idea, then everything kind of came together.
And it's fantastic. How are you finding it? What's your experience thus far? How do you feel about it?
So I'm wondering why I waited so long to do this. It's just amazing.
Yes.
I just love talking to people and finding about their story and, kind of like their money story too. And it's just been great. And, you get to pick people's brain too in the process. So I just kind of wish I had done that long time ago. It's been fun. And I'm an introvert.
You are? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you did say that you kind of resisted the whole social media thing for a long time. And then it's like, okay, I have to do it.
I have no choice.
But it's so cute. I love it. Like all of your, I guess they're kind of TikTok sort of reels or whatever that you post, with you dancing to some really good music. And you just, I love it because you're so cute. Do you know what I mean? And definitely with people like, Farnoosh or whatever, and she is, not only is her podcast, incredibly successful, but she's on, all these TV shows talking about money and money management and wealth management, etc., etc. It really hits home, not just to have someone like her kind of speaking to everyone, but in particular us, but it really hits home to have someone like you who also has that knowledge and who also has a message, something to teach people like me, people like you, that we can listen to and say, okay, all right, so she's kind of just like me, or, she grew up in the same skin as me. So, yes, she might have a money brain, but she can speak to me in a way that I can understand. Even though I don't have the money brain, she can sort of teach and inspire in a way that can actually make me make improvements on my money life and not feel, I think in either it's on your blog or on one of your episodes, you talk about how, there's basically this embarrassment, how we're kind of like embarrassed to talk about money within our family, with our kids or whatever. And it's like, why is it such a taboo? Why is it such a tough discussion to talk about money? What is that about?
And even like the best lessons you probably learn from your mistakes. So if you can share your mistakes with your kids and your friends, your family, then that can probably help somebody not make the same mistakes. So I don't know why it's so taboo, but I hope that it changes. And
well, you see, I mean, I might not be the best example because all of the ways that I've spent my money have been fun ways. Because in my life, the first and foremost thing is about, am I having fun? Are the people around me that I love and care about, are they having fun? Okay, we might not be able to eat tomorrow, but are we having fun today?
Hey, it's good to have fun too. A little fun doesn't hurt.
Well, that's it. But really, then, I'm a Libra and my podcast is all about balance. So I need to find that balance. You can still have fun, but still keep an eye on like, okay, what are we spending? Like one of your things, like, okay, how to decide on budget cuts. So when you decided to leave your job, having that conversation with your husband or maybe with your family, we're going to make some cuts. We have to make cuts because I am going to be leaving this secure job to pursue something that I need to do for me. Therefore, our income is going to dramatically decrease. We need to cut some things in our life. Like, how did you decide? Yeah.
So I think for us, it starts with, I believe in paying yourself first, right? So starting with the target percentage or target amount that we want to invest. So we start from there. And then obviously there are some expenses that you like childcare, mortgage and things like that. You can't really do anything about that. The thing with our budget is that our budget is extremely detailed. So, we have, I think, maybe about 40 line items. And so just looking at each one, and to be honest, when we had our twins in 2016, we did not expect twins. we thought that we were having one child.
I didn't even know you had twins.
Oh
What?
yeah, yeah. I have my 4-year-old. They're twins. So we already had
Ooh,
gone through the process of, okay, we don't just want to increase our expenses and not be able to save and invest as much. So let's just see what we can cut. And we made some drastic cuts just so that we could still hit our investment targets. So
things like what? Things like what? What did you cut?
I mean, we had a lot less fun money. A lot less fun money.
Like vacations or
So
date
that's
nights or
the
what?
thing with me. I love my vacations. So we cut maybe one vacation per year, but because we like to travel, we have family overseas, that can add up to a lot of savings, right? But that's one thing that we agreed on. We still wanted to be able to travel, but just knowing that we wouldn't travel as much. We still wanted to have fun, and so just figuring out ways to do more dates at home instead of going out. And of course, like the simple things like subscriptions, and there's a lot of stuff that had to go. And I don't even think it affected our quality of life at all.
There are
So
a lot of places that we siphon money away, right? And we feel like, oh, it's a small amount, so we won't notice it. And I guess over a month or over a year, when you add it up, it's a significant amount.
yeah,
So if it doesn't make a difference to your, quality of life, why are you throwing that money away,
exactly.
right?
And like for us, just to be transparent, we have, excuse me, our finances are kind of like joined, right? But we
Yeah.
have fund money. So we call it, I have my allowance and he has his allowance. So that the allowance, it was enough for us to do other things. And like I would even like invest with my allowance. So the allowance was cut probably in half, just things like that. But I think over the years, I used I used to be more of a spender when I was younger. But over the years, I think the one thing that I still spend money on is vacations. I still enjoy it. I don't even think twice. Like it's experiences. That's like that's the most important to me. So everything else, I will buy, a nice purse every now and then, but it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, okay. So that's where I need to reverse, because I mean, I have changed it, I think maybe in the last 3 years, where having another expensive purse, it's not that important. Um, but that mindset only changed in the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So with what you're doing now in this space where you are following your dream, you are now, I'm taking it, you're in the house a lot more, right?
Yes.
So how's that going with you and the 3 children? I'm guessing when you were out, working for a corporation, you had someone taking care of the kids a lot of the time, or how did that work out? How
Well,
did you guys balance it all then?
so yeah, well, our kids were, my oldest is she's 6, so she goes to school, and then our youngest were in preschool, and we didn't have a nanny or anything, but they were in preschool. But I was working from home, even at the time I was working from home. So yeah.
Good, good. Did you request that, or is that just part of
How did it
your
happen?
package at your
So
corporation?
when I had my twins, yeah, when I had my twins, I think I was going through. It was just a lot. We didn't have family around or anything, so that's kind of like one of the
Mm.
things that I requested at work. So I would at first I would go to the office maybe a couple times a week, and then eventually it turned into me going to the office whenever I had a meeting or whenever it was needed. So that's kind of like one of the reasons why I also stayed at my job probably a little longer than I want it to. It brings me so much joy. Like when I get messages saying, "Hey, I'm doing what you said." The other day, someone reached out to me and said, "Look, I bought my first house with my fiance, and I'm following the advice." And it just brings me just so much joy. I just love it.
Yeah, because you're changing lives that way. Do you know what I mean? To have that bit of control over your finances, it does something for your psyche as a woman, as a Black woman. It doesn't matter. It just does something which we are feeling, uplifted. We are feeling supported. We're feeling in control. There's a lot that you're doing. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
And I think the most important message that I want to transmit is that no matter the obstacles, because God knows we have a lot, a lot more, but no matter the obstacles, it is, building wealth is accessible if you just know how the whole game works. And one of the books, the personal finance books that I really enjoyed, I actually listened to it. I didn't read it. Money
Okay.
Master the Game. And so
Okay.
that book is so different because it talks about the mindset. Because a lot of it is just even thinking that you can, and then getting the knowledge and making it happen.
So someone like me, who is a novice at the idea of taking care of their money, where should they start? Because it might seem like you're going to an enormous desert or an enormous forest full of a lot of
Absolutely.
trees. Where do we start?
So as far as which steps or resource?
Yeah, like,
Okay,
okay,
so
I've got $50 a week. What, and I don't have to spend it. What do I do? Where do I
so
put
I
it?
think
What do I do?
so I think the first step is to make sure you have an emergency fund. And I know like it used to be 3 months, but I think these days, it, if it's not possible to do 6 months, at least working towards 6 to 12 months progressively.
Okay, so hold on. But what if you are a stay-at-home mother and you
Mhm.
are working on the allowance that you're given, every week?
Mhm.
So, like, what is your emergency fund? Like, what is
So,
your 3-month fund? What is your, if your spouse is the one that's, the primary income
so I
provider?
think so I think then it will be making sure that the household has the emergency fund. And the emergency fund is not the total expenses that it's not your total monthly expenses. It's really like, okay, if something were to happen tomorrow, what you need to cover your bills, and what you need to survive. So it doesn't include any trip to the restaurant. It doesn't include going to the movies, traveling. So it's like your bare bone budget. So I think just making sure that the family has that. Once the family has that, then actually prior to that, handling debt. So like if you have any high interest rate debt, like credit card debt, then pay it off as fast as you can, because a lot of times you'll spend time paying off interest that's going to keep increasing. So, and you're not really tackling the principal. So, creating a plan to get rid of high interest debt, any debt that's above 7%, just tackle it aggressively. Live below your means. Create a budget that's based on what you have after taxes, and pay yourself first. Pay your bills, save, and learn to invest. Track your net worth. And to track your net worth, and your net worth is assets. So everything that you own minus your liabilities, everything that you owe. And once you start doing that, there's like free apps that you can use, like Personal Capital, to do that. And once you start looking at your full financial picture, then you can really tackle kind of like the obstacles, and then you can track your progress. And so, another thing that I'll say is if you are a stay-at-home mom, or if your spouse is the
Main breadwinner.
exactly. So whatever allowance that you have, you can decide to invest it, right? You can invest some of it, you can invest all of it, and starting simple, like I said earlier, with index funds or, ETFs, and finding ways to, like a side, have like a side hustle, whatever, skill that you have. Everybody has skills. What kind of skills can you leverage to bring some type of income? And also, one thing that people do a lot is they save, but they don't invest. So I'm going to say it again. People don't build wealth by saving. So it's important to actually invest it. And there are different ways, Um, maybe you can do everything, like the stock market and real estate, but, as long as you do one, right? So I think that's one. And also, when you learn to invest, if you're learning to invest in the stock market, just making sure that you take advantage of tax advantage accounts so that you can either save on taxes by contributing into, an account with before tax dollars, or save on taxes in the future by contributing into an account with after tax dollars.
Okay, I mean, I don't know about anyone else that's going to get to listen to this when this episode goes live. I'm going to be taking notes, and I'm probably going to have to listen to it over and over and over again. But is this the type of, you mentioned that you're a coach, so you coach people through their money madness? Do you?
Yeah, so I help individuals and couples kind of like get to setting their financial goals and create a plan to get there. And another thing that I would say, if you want to take control of your finances, especially if you have children, is to get your affairs in order. That means life insurance, will, you know, power of attorney, durable power of attorney, potentially medical directives for healthcare. There's so many things that need to be done to make sure that your family is taken care of if something were to happen. And another thing that I would say is it's very important to think about where you want to be 10, 15, 20 years from now, and then go work backwards from there. So for anyone who wants to even take it a step further, I wrote an article on my blog a while back. It's called Achieving Financial Independence, and it kind of walks you through the process of calculating your financial independence number based on your expenses. And so, so the starting point is you take your expenses for the year and you multiply by 25. And I'm not going to get into all of the details. You can just go to the post to read it. But that's just the starting point. But then you can decide whether that's enough or not, and then you can adjust the formula. And I have a calculator on my website, and so you can start from your financial independence number, and then you can use a financial calculator to determine how much you would need to invest every year, every month to get to that number. So it's kind of like working backwards, setting the goal and then figuring out how to get to the goal.
All right, this is a wealth of information and definitely something that needs to be listened to and noted and listened to over and over again. One last bit of advice for families, for parents, for women in particular, who have taken the leap like you did and are following their dreams and potentially took a cut in pay with their career that they had been following for years or whatever, just faced the fear and did it anyway. How do you balance it all, and what do you recommend to other women like you, other parents like you, who already have a lifestyle in place, but now you've shaken it up by following your own personal dreams? What's your advice?
So I wish I had figured out how to balance it all. I'm still learning. So I might not be the right person to answer that question. I'm still learning, like, to draw a line between, work hours and, life. So, but I think my advice would be to just treat it as a, like, whether it's a side hustle or you're just getting started, just treat it as a business. That means be as professional as you can be and take it seriously and put systems in place so that hopefully you do most of the heavy lifting in the beginning, and eventually, slowly but surely, you can bring on help and just hand it over, as opposed to just kind of like not having a plan. So just have a plan and stick to the plan and understand that you will be doing everything.
Making a plan and not getting overwhelmed by it, because making the plan in the first place is already a great way to start, because when you can see the plan, especially if you write it down, when you see it, then you can be it, then you can achieve it, right? If you see, you make a
Exactly.
plan. Yeah.
And so one thing that I'm not getting any type of kickback from this, but I have this amazing planner. It's called the Full Focus Planner, and it's the best thing ever, and it helps me stay on track every day. So
what are the pages like? It plans every hour of your day?
so it's like a quarterly planner. So you need like 4 of these every year, and so you plan every week your big goals for the week, the things that you're working on, and then every day you have to have your 3 top goals, and then your nice to have, and then at the end of every week you kind of review and see how you can improve. And you can have business plans. I mean, plans for your business plans, personal plans, and it's just an awesome planner.
I love that, because it just made me think of because I am a planner. I'm a huge planner, which can get on some people's nerves, and I'm a scheduler. But there's an area of my life now that just made me think that I am not necessarily making much of a plan for and just kind of going with, because it's something I've been doing for a while, but now I'm turning it into my side hustle or into a business. And I kind of do need to now treat it seriously, as opposed to just kind of being. So thank you for mentioning that. All right. I hear young voices in the background. It's your Friday night. Anne-Lyse, I'm so appreciative that we were able to do this. I know you say you're still learning, you're still figuring out, but you are a planner. I mean, I contacted you a while back. We planned this. I think we planned it for maybe like a week or 2 weeks ago. You had to reschedule, but it's planning nonetheless. It was like, okay, this has come up for tomorrow. I can't do it. Let's see, can we move things around? Absolutely. That is planning ahead. You are clearly a scheduler and a planner. So you have already so much that can influence and inspire many of us, myself included. I hope you don't mind, because I definitely plan to stalk you, not just on your website. And I'm hoping I'm allowed to maybe we can swap numbers, and also maybe just kind of see if I can get a consultation where we can talk real nuts and bolts. I was about to turn
Absolutely. Like I said, I just love helping people and making them realize all the things that they can do if they just take control of their finances. So thank you so much, Loretta, for having me. It's been it's been great.
Thank you,
great.
you. And more importantly, thank you for wearing fuchsia, my favorite color ever. And the tea, are you beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Congratulations on taking the leap. And I am going to continue following you. And like I said, stalking you. So thank you for what you're doing for my life already.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you again for tuning in to Living Out Loud with Loretta. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend or several friends. Post a screenshot of this episode on your Instagram stories and tag me at Loretta Nakwacha. You can also watch this episode with a cold beverage on my YouTube channel. The link is posted below. Lastly, if you have the time, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so that we can continue sharing stories, singing songs, and living our lives really out loud.